And welcome to the World's Worst Podcasts. I'm Ben. That's Devin.
Hey.
Starting off here with some music from the Black Twig Pickers and Steve Gunn from their album Natch 1, Sally in the Garden, Shiftin' Sand. Nice way to start. We're recording earlier today, so it's kind of a nice folky morning, at least as we're recording this. Obviously, I don't know when you're listening to this, but something nice to kick things off, I think. This week, we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, doing our first multimedia episode, I suppose. Going to talk about Twin Peaks and, yeah, all sorts of ephemera and who knows what else. I prefer to keep you in the dark about what's going on. Anyways, you've read the description of the episode, right? So you know what's going on. All right, so shall we?
Yeah. I just got an email from Lawyer Girl asking if the Twin Peaks on Hulu that we watched is a remake of Twin Peaks.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, how about we go ahead and just start with how was your week?
It's been shitty.
All right. I know you were talking about having stomach issues, so I don't know if you mean that kind of shitty or just...
All kinds of minor shitty things have happened, both like literally and figuratively. I told you earlier this week about the clerical error that got me.
Oh, yeah.
The eviction notice. That makes me nervous just thinking about it, even though that it's absolutely 100% cleared from my record.
Yeah.
It still just is awful.
The fact that it could happen, like that it could have happened, is
And it happened because of an everyday, normal human mistake. No big deal, except when when you're perfectly fine, and then boom. I mean, that day was just awful.
Yeah, that's never fun.
Basically, just a bunch of little piddly stuff that, in hindsight, is absolutely meaningless. It's just at the time was shittier than, because it's happening at the time.
Yeah. Okay. So that stuff aside, what did you enjoy about the last week?
Fair
I know. I got a text from you. I don't know if you want to talk about this on the podcast. I know I got a text from you the other day showing it was very excited, and then a picture of a USPS package. I don't know if that's something that qualifies for this, but
it absolutely does. I have just picked up a new hobby.
Okay.
I've had a few new hobbies in the last few months that I've picked up regularly. Mm-hmm. But I picked up fountain pens.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's really, really cool. If you want to, and we'll include it in the show notes here, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I'll send you the link. I picked up the Pilot Metropolitan in medium, and it's black with it's the plain handle black one.
Okay.
It writes a little finer than the Western mediums because it's Japanese. They grind their nubs finer, so their fines are a little finer than fine. But it's fantastic. I love it. It's definitely something you have to get used to writing with. I've never even used any kind of fountain pen before, not even mucking about. But it's fantastic, and I'll show you the ink here. I got 3, if I can spell ancient correctly. Oh my God. I got 3 ink samples, which is really the way to go for this. I'm just starting out, and that's a fantastic entry-level pen. And so I got 3 ink samples, all from Goulet pens, who are really, really wonderful.
Are we sure it's not Goulet?
Goulet, yep, that's actually exactly what it is. And I Goulet pens, and I totally just sent you the search by accident instead of the actual link. I got this ancient diamine ancient copper, which is just I I don't know. Luscious sounds wrong, but it's
Well,
luxurious, maybe.
Yeah.
Makes it luxurious ink.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there is something a bit more. There's something inherently different about working with a fountain pen because it is just more flowing, and so I think luscious is something that can apply to it because of that nature. But it's to each their own.
Yeah, and here's the other ink I got.
Okay.
The Diane Midnight, which I have not used. I will use the.
Yeah, nice
ancient,
dark blue. Yeah.
Yep, the ancient copper. I wanted a cool tone to go with it.
Yeah.
And then I got the very last one is the Noodler's Black Eel. And it's an interesting dark. It's an interesting like cool black, if that makes sense. Because like the polar black is kind of warmer seeming. I don't know there's probably terms to describe this, but I don't know what it is.
You'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the joy of picking up a new hobby, is getting into the jargon.
Yeah. I've actually been listening to a podcast called The Pen Addict. And they're a fantastic podcast. I would highly suggest them. But they made me get into it. And what's more, doing this hobby has gotten me to write to people through the conventional mail.
Yeah.
Which is something I've been wanting to do for months now, but just haven't really done. And one of the reasons I don't do it is because my handwriting is such shit.
Mm-hmm.
But my handwriting has improved so much in 2 days. It's improved. By using the pen and the Rhodia notebook, it's just really improved my handwriting by 10 times easily. I mean, that I'm not even an exaggeration.
Wow.
I can comfortably write legible handwriting. When before I could barely manage legible handwriting when I'm painstakingly write with a normal gel pen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that amount of practice. I mean, how much time would you say you spent doing that writing?
I wrote 3 pages plus mucked about a bit. I 3 8x11 pages, and then 3 5x8 pages in my Moleskine. I wrote about. I feel like it's 2-3 hours broken up.
Yeah.
But that could be just also time for considering and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a few hours, I improved my handwriting, and it keeps being improved. Like, it's not just going down, like going up and going down. It's staying at that level.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, you'll have to. I know we discussed doing the sort of pen pal thing. Of course, I guess the podcast kind of helps with that too. But
yeah, I'm actually going to write you, but it's going to be much more intermittent than it was going to be.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I would love to get a letter from you.
I would definitely do that.
That's cool. Yeah, and
I'm super excited. I'm going to buy more next month too.
Yeah, that's a really cool hobby. Like, one of the things that is. Like, I don't want to be like an old fogey type person, but there is something inherently different about writing on paper with pen, especially with something like a fountain pen where you have to be even more careful so that you don't get smudges everywhere. That just changes how you write and the sort of interface you have with the written material. I mean, when you just type something up on a computer, it's so malleable and changeable, and you can make it look however you want. It's
sterile too.
Yeah, exactly. It is at best imitating real live writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a whole different experience when it's just you and the paper and the pen, and the physicality of it is. It's just, yeah, it's an entirely different experience.
It feels really authentic to be writing with a pen and paper. And as long as you don't fall into that journal trap where you're writing in a different voice from what you would speak, then as long as you're doing that, it feels like I'm more authentically communicating with the person via this text.
Though, I mean, at the same time, though, and as someone who studies communication personally, and I took a really interesting class in my undergrad where we actually talked about it was this like senior seminar class about writing and writing in groups and the nature of that as a means of communication. So when you talk about like the journal voice or the whatever voice, that the way that you change when you actually have this perception of an audience and the way that you would write or express yourself in different mediums, I think that can be just as authentic, but maybe not the same as when you're just talking to somebody.
Yeah, maybe authentic is the wrong word, because like when I'm texting someone, the vivaciousness that's inside me that I don't really have the energy to typically express is expressed in those texts. I'm preppy. I'm not preppy. Peppy. I'm vivacious. I'm energetic. I'm silly, more silly than I might be in speech, but that because it allows me a certain amount of more freedom without my perceived judgments of others. So that's just as authentic, I would say, as my speech. And
maybe
on is the right word I'm looking for, rather than authentic when writing in that journal voice. Because like when we're doing a podcast, we are slightly different, slightly left of center of what we normally are,
if we're going to talk about being quote unquote on, then I think we have to refer to like when I do the intro to the podcast or the outro to the podcast, I kind of slip into that presenter voice a little bit. And so it is a thing, but at the same time, I think ultimately authenticity is probably the wrong word for what we're talking about, because it's all authentic. I mean, unless you're, I guess, lying. But
yeah, that's exactly the thought I had.
So it's just different aspects of yourself that come out in different mediums. So you actually it occurred to me that when you were talking about how you talk as in text, I realized myself too. I actually do kind of the same thing. Like I feel more. The short and to the point nature of a text message to me, it brings out some of my silly, dumb, playful side in a way that maybe doesn't always come across in longer form communication. Though I don't know if that's necessarily a generalizable statement. Like I don't think it would be the case that text communication, like texting, makes people inherently more playful.
Right, absolutely.
But, oh my God, something just hit me. I'm going for a master's in communication. I should look into that as a potential area of research.
You should.
like that's something that would be interesting to me, is to see, like, do people, like, what personality traits tend to be exaggerated as a result of like in different communication mediums. And I would emphasize personally like computer mediated communication, so something like texting or instant messages or something like that. Excuse me.
Yeah, when I'm communicating, especially this is when I'm communicating with people who identify as cisgendered heterosexual males, I act in a less vivacious manner than I might in some cases. I guess this also carries for cisgendered females as well, because I imagine I'm perceived, because I am a tall man he's quite large and all in shoulder width and in girth and all that. I'm perceived as this masculine. I hate to say this. Perceived as this masculine male, when if you were to look internally, would not fit the handling. I mean the packaging.
Right.
It would be a much more energetic, bouncy individual. Like I said, vivacious again. That word pops up. But so I think that's interesting, because not only is the mode of communication. I mean, I guess it still is a mode of communication when we're speaking in person.
It is 100% guaranteed.
Yeah. So it is super interesting about how we both happen to communicate, how we choose to communicate, and then our perceptions of other people's perceptions of our communication.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the things that's so interesting about studying human communication, is that it's all of the little things that we take for granted, like that go into it. Like, you know, it's easy to think of communication, and for years theorists have done this, where it's just, okay, I have an idea, I want to send that message to somebody, so I pick an appropriate channel for that, or maybe appropriate isn't even a bit more appropriate is a bit more nuanced, but like I have a message, I want to send it to somebody, I send it to them, and maybe they get it, or maybe it's a little interfered with, and then maybe it comes back, depending on the model you're looking at. And that's like the very basic thing. But as that has evolved, it has become much more nuanced, to where, you know, different modes of communication seem to have certain effects on the way that people communicate, and different and understanding the nature of that relationship between the sender and the receiver, instead of just being this like linear series of steps, being this back and forth, you know, transactional process that isn't just about, you know, discrete messages back and forth. And that's kind of where things are at now, where there's that transactional model of communication, where it's the environment and the back and forth. You know, you are, say, standing in front of someone, you know, that's going to, the feedback you get from them, seeing them, being physically present with them, is going to have effects on what you say before you even think of saying something.
My mind was just blown. We've talked about the concept of my concept. I don't know if it's my concept, but I don't know how to describe this. But the idea of a mutual language, where two people, like, where you know, like you, Ben, know me well, and you know what I mean when I say very, or awful, or something, when I'm giving a qualitative statement that doesn't have any actual attachment to it to give any information. It doesn't do any work without experience of what that word means.
Right.
And we can communicate and quickly and easily about miscommunications without saying a whole bunch. And it communicates quite a bit. That's what, you know, I mean, it's more to it than that, but that's part of the mutual language what I refer to.
Yeah.
And I have never thought about the environment and the events, how they affect the mutual language. If I take any person, you, for example, if we were getting through each other, went through set A of events, we would have a mutual language. But if we didn't go through A and we went through B, which is, you know, 50% different, we would have a 50% or more different mutual language.
Right, yeah. I mean, language is shaped by the environment. Yeah. So, yeah, you're not just communicating sort of the... That kind of got off track there, but it's affected by the environment, and so there's that feedback of where you are and how you're communicating that then feeds into your shared understanding of what you're talking about, or at a certain
But it
point, who you are as
changes,
people.
like events and things, like change the proposition of the statement. Like it changes all of that. I never thought about it as such a big level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need to clarify something I said earlier. I don't want to, by no means at all do I think that size and proportion determine manliness or something.
Oh,
right.
right.
I was just describing what the societal binary concept of manliness is. I do not ascribe to that. I am not looking down on or minimizing or anything if you do not fit the binary. I do not ascribe to a binary by fact. I don't think that fits at all. I just wanted to make sure that anyone who's listening, we're perfectly clear on that idea.
Yeah, I think it should be understood as a general rule that when we do refer to those sorts of societal concepts, we are referring to them in the way that larger society refers to them, not to say that they have inherent truth or inherent accuracy as society refers to them, but those are the way they are used, and so we also use them in that way just to get the point across. If that makes sense. Not to say, when we use those terms, it's not meant to be a value statement or a statement of how the term should be applied, just a purely descriptive use of how it is applied rather than how it should be applied. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and it's certainly specifically me and Ben mean very little. It means actually the proposition is very, very small. It means very, very little in comparison to what society would say when they communicate. At least American society would try to communicate manliness. It means, when we're using that term, much different things and much less than what the society would use. I personally ascribe to something very similar to what Hank Green in his video "Sex is Complicated." I think that's the title. In any case, I think that gender and sex is incredibly myriad. It's a vast vast spectrum of things, and there is no prescriptive anything. There's no way it should be. There's no moral judgment. There's no nothing.
There's just the way it is.
Yeah, there's just whatever the person identifies as is equal to whatever the next person identifies as, no matter what.
Okay, so let's, and I think we should end that there, because now we're getting, to the extent that we have rails on this show, we're getting way off them.
Yep, and we're talking, well, it also, it went from communication to a smidgen to gender politics.
It's not, we didn't get there illogically, but I think we're starting to sort of get away from anything we intended to talk about, and I think there's... I think we have plenty of good things to talk about right now without getting into other things.
Yeah, to go back to what I was saying before, one thing, next month I'm getting this ink. It's the Noodler's Heart of Darkness.
Ooh.
Yeah, Noodler's does awesome. He has some crazy names for his inks. And he works on inks that have... more staying power, so you can even possibly use them in legal situations. Because most inks are that, like, all the inks except possibly the Noodler's Black Eel are water based, so you can just wash them right off the page.
Right.
But this one comes with a free pen, and if you spend like $5 more, you can take the cartridge out and convert it into what's called an eyedropper feed, which is basically you're just filling the bottle of the body of the pen up with ink as opposed to having a cartridge.
Right.
And that gives 3 times the capacity, which means you can write about, depending on what you're doing, 150 pages or more. So, it's just one of the coolest things about this hobby is that it interests me that how it can conserve on environmentally. Because if you think about how many pens just get chucked when the cartridge gets full, back is dried up or something, you just chuck it out. With this, much less waste, and much more reliability too. And I like my hands being stained at the end of the day.
It's evidence that you're working in a way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
Now that we've kind of brought the train back into the station, I think it's actually time we take a quick break here because, quite frankly, I have to use the bathroom. So we'll be right back after this. And back. Here we are.
Right on. Should we talk about, or did you have some? When are we going to talk about Twin Peaks? Is essentially.
Well, yeah, we can move into that. I just, I'll just say for the sake of balance, I had a reasonably okay week.
I'm sorry.
No, it's you don't need to apologize. Like, we have stuff to get to. It's fine.
We were so removed from how we were talking about our week that I forgot that you didn't talk about your week.
Well, that's good. That's good that we did that because also I got a potential research question for my master's thesis out of it. So thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Not much happened really. It was a pretty uneventful week. But I had my first real full week of classes, and so got into that rhythm and figuring out like when I need to do my reading to have it ready and all that stuff. But yeah, it's good. It's good. But yeah, and then on Friday, watched the 90-minute pilot episode of Twin Peaks.
Right on.
Which I guess is kind of the next big thing we're going to be talking about here. So I guess it should be considered fair game at this point that anything after this will be potential spoilers for, I guess, the series. I mean, I don't know too much about it ahead of time. I don't know about you, Devin.
Nope, I purposely stayed on the first episode.
Okay, yeah, so we're both on the first episode, and so if you haven't watched it yet, it's highly recommended that you do. If you don't care, whatever. But
it might be interesting to listen to us and then go watch it, but I would watch it first.
Yeah, it's all up to personal preference, but just, again, fair warning, spoilers might technically be ahead. So,
super spoilers all over the place.
So, Devin, who killed Laura Palmer?
Oh, that was the husband of the blind one-eyed lady.
Oh, yeah?
Who is somehow related to the biker guy. Absolutely.
You think Ed had something to do with it? I think it was his name.
Absolutely. In fact, let me get a description up here.
Okay.
And then we'll just doing descriptions of plots is incredibly difficult, as has been shown at least by my shitty half-ass attempt in the past few episodes of trying to describe something.
Well, you want me to try and go for it then?
Yeah, but I think we should just read one.
Oh, that's no fun.
Oh,
how about this?
True,
like
but
you keep the synopsis up. I'll go over it, and if I miss anything important, just jump in and let me know.
Yeah, I'm just worried. I just worried about conciseness, which you're good at. So go ahead with conciseness.
Again, this is why I'm doing this. No.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm totally with you on that.
So, Twin Peaks, first of all, if you're not aware, is this weird little experiment in network television drama that happened. I think it was 2 seasons, 1990 and 1991.
Correct, on NBC.
Yeah, and directed by David Lynch, and I think he also co-wrote or had script input.
He co-wrote it with let's see, what's his name? His name is Mark Frost.
Okay. Yeah, and it is this the first season at least. Here's what I know going in is that the first season is considered fantastic and covers this whole arc that we're about to get into the beginning of. And then the second season, because it got renewed, kind of doesn't go anywhere because it's missing that central tenet.
I have zero information on the second season.
Plot. So the show opens in Twin Peaks, which is this sleepy logging town of about 50,000 people in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's described as being like 5 miles from the Canadian border and 10 miles from the Idaho border or something like that, sort of tucked up in the northeast corner of the state of Washington.
That would make sense with like the area.
Yeah, so, Douglas firs everywhere, and which, we'll get to. So the show opens up with the discovery of a dead body. And this is the Laura Palmer we were talking about. She was found dead on the shoreline of a lake, wrapped in plastic, and clearly cold from being left out in the night. This, of course, in this small town where everybody knows everybody, sets off a whole chain reaction of grief and strife. An FBI agent, whose name I now forget.
I don't have his name either.
All right. Well, an eccentric FBI agent is assigned to the case.
Dale Cooper.
Dale Cooper?
Yep.
Okay. And FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper, I think is how he introduces himself, comes to town and starts to investigate this case. Like he was called in by the sheriff's department because this is just such a crazy thing that doesn't normally happen, in this area. And he starts to look into it. There become by the end of the episode, you have about 3. Well, essentially, there's one guy who we know as the audience didn't do it, but clearly knows things about Laura Palmer that nobody else in the sort of like outward-facing face of town people knew about, right? Like Laura Palmer was the homecoming queen, senior in high school, loved everybody, was friendly and beautiful and so full of life, as they would say. And so clearly, at a certain point, there were things she was doing that most people weren't aware of. And so you're kind of introduced to some of the different factions, a couple of and the key players. And I mean, I don't know how deep we want to go, but essentially, yeah, the whole season sets up to be this this attempt to try and get to the bottom of who killed Laura Palmer, and it turns out, thanks to Mr. Cooper's involvement, he discovers that this murder is likely related to
it's part of a serial killing.
Part of apparent serial killing that also has been going on in Washington State, and so he jumps in and has to take over everything because this is now a much more serious case than was originally believed to be.
Later on in the episode, it turns true that there is, in fact, 3 victims. So we know for sure that it is
3
a
victims.
serial
Okay.
killing.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how many others. I was, for some reason, I was thinking there was just one other case, but it was.
It started with Laura Palmer.
Well, no, it didn't start with her, but there was.
It started with because then we found the girl in the hospital.
Oh no! I mean the overall, the larger case.
Oh, it wasn't commented that there was more victims beyond those 3 within Twin Peaks. It wasn't actually.
No, there was only one victim. Well, Laura Palmer was killed. Her friend, who was apparently there, was severely injured but not killed and is in a coma. And then the serial killer part is where Cooper reveals in the town meeting, describing this, like saying what's going on, that it's related to at least one other murder in the state.
Nope.
Yes, that's
we see in the lumber mill we see that one person is being escorted out, and the woman, when they close the lumber mill, makes the announcement.
Oh yeah.
The daughter has been missing.
That's
which
right.
is not the woman in the hospital.
That's right. There is that.
That's the third that
right.
makes it a serial, and that's why he sets up camp.
Oh no, because there was, but okay. So there, I did forget about that one. You're right.
But that's the third to make it a serial that sets it up.
No, it's not, because what sets it up as, okay, this is connected to other cases, is the event that Agent Cooper talks about at the town hall meeting, which was something that did not happen in Twin Peaks. And when he finds a clue under Laura's fingernail that connects it to this wholly separate case in the state.
I'm going to say that I need more information. However, because of the mention that it was so close to state lines that's why the FBI got involved, I'll bet you $1 that you are mistaken.
You're looking at a plot synopsis right now, aren't you?
I am not. I'm looking at a cast list because it's just up. I promise.
Oh, I thought you said you were... No, because I'm saying you're looking at a plot synopsis. You will see what I am talking about.
Oh, I'm not looking at a plot synopsis. I couldn't find a plot synopsis.
Okay, because I am telling you that is what happened. It wasn't
So what you're saying is you're looking at a plot synopsis.
No, I am not. But now I am going to look it up because we are going to settle this once and for fucking all.
Well, I'm betting you $1. I'm betting you $1.
Okay, let me just pull this up here.
Do you take my bet? Do you take my bet?
I will take your bet. Let me just pull up. You're gonna owe me $1. Now my only concern here is now I'm going to look up and I'm going to see more than I intend to see. Actually, let's see. I'm going to look it up on Wikipedia because they tend to have.
I tried that already, but I didn't look very hard.
Okay, so we've got this season 1.
This is going to be awesome if I lose $1 off.
Ha! Okay.
Am I wrong?
Cooper's initial examination of Laura's body reveals a tiny typed letter R inserted under her fingernail. Cooper informs the community that Laura's death matches the signature of a killer who murdered another girl in southwestern Washington the previous year. And that evidence indicates the killer lives in Twin Peaks. You owe me $1.
I do owe you $1. My mistake.
Anyway.
I wonder at what time stamp
if you're scrolling back through the episode, it's in the second half of the episode, and
that's my bad. That's unfortunate.
It's in the second half of the episode, and it's, if you're just like sort of scrolling through it visually, it's the scene that occurs in the big meeting room.
Yeah,
that's because that's how he opens the meeting. Is with.
Yep, that will be. I'll explain why that's important to me after we're done with the synopsis.
Okay, well,
I guess we're done.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it for now.
Yeah.
I mean, you get introduced to some of the main players. You see that pretty much everybody is sleeping around with everybody else, and everybody knows everything. So
everyone hates everybody, or is sleeping with everyone else.
Yes,
it's kind of a shitty little town.
Yeah, it's. I'm definitely glad I didn't grow up there, or someplace like it.
But since we were talking about it, this brings me to one of my cons. I have 3 cons and 3 pros for the episode.
Okay.
And one of the cons is that, man, it was so boring and bad up until the 42nd minute. And that's pretty much when, if not exactly when, the FBI character comes in.
No, he comes in before that.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's about when it picks up for me.
Yeah.
It was... If it wasn't for the fact that we were doing this for this podcast, I would not have finished it. I would have quit before it picked up, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been a 1. It would have been completely unwatchable for me until it picked up.
Well, and I think, I kind of agree with you in that they clearly took a long time setting up the town and setting up just the exact nature of Laura Palmer being killed and the significance that it has on the community and some of her friends. And maybe that could have been dealt with a little bit faster. But I think also that sets up a great juxtaposition for who Dale Cooper is. Because holy shit, he's a weird guy.
Yeah, but it doesn't, my complaint isn't that it's taking long. Like, I'll watch 4-hour movies, like, there's French films that are super slow, like, Blue something. Shit, now I can't remember it. Blue is the warmest color, maybe?
Yeah,
anyway,
I have no idea.
Like, fantastic blue. It's the French films that are long. Length doesn't bother me. It's that it was so grating. And to get into specific reasons, like, it is pretty much all of my cons. But it was so grating even to get to that. Like, it wasn't even the length, but it was like, if it was 10 minutes, it would have been too grating to get to that. I would have shut it off in 10, 15 minutes. So it wasn't even the length of that bothered me.
Well, can you get any more specific about what you found grating?
Oh, it's... And I'm... among film buffs, I'm probably one in a very small community, but I can't stand how David Lynch does things. It's dated. It's super dated. Just incredibly, horribly dated.
Whoa.
Which, to be fair, is, it's set in the 90s, and to be completely fair, being dated isn't even necessarily that bad. It doesn't necessarily affect it. It just didn't live. It didn't get past that. It didn't get past the datedness. Like, I love Babylon 5. I don't know if you've ever seen that show.
I've seen bits.
But it's terribly dated. But it was amazing when it came out. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I just couldn't. Yeah, it didn't live. It didn't hold up well. Like the X-Files holds up well. This does not.
Okay, I mean, I would say I disagree with you on that. I guess I don't see, it didn't affect me that way at all. The fact that it was, I mean, I'm not even sure what about it for you was so dated. I mean, clear, like, fashion choices and the vehicles they have, and the fact that no one has phones, which leads to a bit of a panic at the beginning when people are trying to figure out who's where. But I mean, that doesn't bother me, because like, I like period pieces. Yeah. So
like, that sort of thing doesn't bother me. So we have, I think one of the things that, like, we have criterion for what would make a bad movie now.
Okay.
Right? Fast forward at 30 years, and the difference in the datedness between the bad movie now and the good movie now is that the good movie is good. And so it's easier to accept the datedness, or even find it to be a plus, in the sense that it brings up nostalgia.
Okay, what I'm not looking for here is a philosophical discussion of what makes, like, of changing standards over time. What I want you to tell me, if you can, is what exactly about the first half hour, 40 minutes of Twin Peaks felt so dated and bad to you.
That's exactly what I'm doing, Ben. Like, I'm trying to describe that it was... the feel of it was bad. Like, how am I supposed to describe... I mean, there were certain things, like, that were weird. Like, it's an ambivalent clothing style that, from some periods, it looked like it's from the 50s and 60s to, stuff that was clearly from the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. Like, it was ambivalent in that. So it's even difficult even to pinpoint what makes it feel dated, other than the obviously purposefully ambivalent style plus.
Well, I think when you're talking about, like, from the 50s, there's the girl who is the daughter of the people who own the big hotel in town.
That's one part.
Yeah, has very much a 1950s style to her. But I didn't find that, like, the only thing I found problematic about that character is she's so mean.
I liked her.
She's an ass.
She amused me.
Yeah.
In the way that bad girls amuse me and are the big red flag. But
Right.
I like a bad girl me, honestly.
I mean, I totally appreciate what they're doing with the character, but as a person, it's just like, God damn it. But, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
I guess I think at this point, then it just comes down to a difference of opinion. I didn't find any of those things to be problematic. I was wrapped up in the sort of the drama of what was happening, and these interconnections between the characters, and how the whole town is in bed or hating each other, and just trying to. I want to see how all of these connections start to play out and get teased out and unraveled over the course of the season.
I think what I was trying to describe before, not to derail what you were trying to do
go
there,
ahead.
but the thing that I was trying to describe to you that you jumped on me about being not wanting a philosophical blah 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 blah.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is that style is what makes you realize it's from the 90s. That style of acting, for example, which makes it a bad show for the 90s, makes it bring you into the 90s and makes you feel like it's dated. Not like you're looking at a period piece,
No,
but it makes you feel like it's dated.
Okay,
that's one of many things which I was trying to describe.
But you pulled out you just said bad acting as if that's an objective fact about how it was done. Can you be more descriptive than that?
The mother, for example, the mother when she finds out that she's lost her child, it's hammy. It's atrociously hammy.
Okay.
The acting and dialogue among the boyfriend of the victim and his older waitress lover is another example.
Okay. I can
brought it out.
Kind of see what you're saying. I guess I don't know, and maybe I just don't know enough to say it, but to place it the way you are. But I didn't feel like those were, to the extent that those might have been bad or off-putting. I don't think that has anything to do with the era it was shot in. I think you could find examples of that kind of stuff in other similar media. But it's opinion.
I think it's indicative of trends. Like if you were to look at, I mentioned DS9, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional moment brought on with emotional music is a very 80s and 90s trope. It like that kind of Disney-esque forcing you to try to have this emotion by just positing music on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing that I'm referring, that makes it feel dated.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't want to talk all day about why it feels dated. I just wanted to
hate on it all the time.
Vindicate myself a little bit here and not sound like an idiot. But
I mean, I'll just throw this out there. Pulling it up on IMDb, the show, 75,900 users have ranked this show, and the rating is a 9 out of 10.
No, I am in the minority, especially for the group of people who have the interests that I'm interested in. I'm in a minority. I don't want to shit on you either. That's not very fair. I just wanted to just point that out, that maybe it's you. Okay, maybe it is. I'm also the person who doesn't like the Lord of the Rings movies. All right.
Yeah.
I'm in the same group of people who like said sort of things. I should like this show, and I'm going to keep watching it to give a little spoiler to the rest of our episode here. But I just, and that's not even. There was no glaring big thing that really killed it for me, since we're kind of all over our place in our assessments.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bunch of little things that kind of waved over me.
Okay, well let's do this. Let's pivot at the same point that your interest in the episode pivoted, and let's go to the introduction of Dale Cooper and the remainder of the episode.
Okay.
Based on that, And the weird character that he is.
Yeah.
How do you think that's enough for you to want to keep watching the rest of it without having to be forced to for the sake of a podcast or something similar?
Well, the very nature of the fact that it's a pilot is enough to make me be willing to watch another episode. There's a lot of shows I ended up enjoying or even loving that their pilots are just complete horseshit.
Fair point.
So I should have started this entire discussion off by saying I'm giving automatic points to the show, honorary points, just by the fact that it's a pilot. So I'm not poo-pooing it just because it's a pilot. I'm trying to be charitable.
Right.
I will be watching the next episode or two, and I hope you will too.
Mm-hmm.
I like Dale Cooper, and it got interesting at towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, towards that 42-minute or whatever mark, it got interesting for me. So it got better than the 1 out of 5.
So right now, if you had to put a at present star rating on it out of 5, what would you say?
For just the pilot episode alone, I would give it a 2 out of 5.
So it's starting at a 2 out of 5, and we'll see where it goes?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not a good pilot, but that's okay. Because it's a pilot.
Okay, I was into it. I would say that it's a 4, personally.
Oh, very cool.
I'm interested to see where it goes.
Very cool.
But I guess I don't know. I'm not sure what else to say about it other than.
Oh, really? I have a bunch of things to say.
Okay, well let's go with what you have to say, and then that might spark me to remember some things that I want to say.
Yeah, as I've already stated, I have more negatives, but the only other negative that and I'm nitpicking here, and I totally understand it, and I'm not counting it against it additionally, other than the big group of these are acting negatives, but the kids in class, there's no reason. Oh wait. No, I'm an idiot. That is not bad acting. That was bad acting. The girl running outside screaming for no apparent reason, that was bad.
What?
Because the girl running out of by the window that we don't even know who she is.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose that happened because the announcements were happening in other classrooms first.
Well, no. What happened that moment, because that was when to set the scene properly, the sheriffs are starting their investigation. They've gone to the school. It's just the beginning of the school day. An officer comes in to talk to the teacher in the classroom that Laura would be in first period or whatever it is, and there's a moment where that conversation starts to happen. It cuts back to one of the main characters, Donna, who's Laura's best friend, realizing that Laura's seat is empty. She's looking at another guy in the back of the room who we later understand the connection with, and that's the moment where clearly she's starting to understand that something has gone wrong, and then someone else has their moment of panic and runs out of a classroom screaming, crying. Potentially,
are we sure about that?
I thought that was the order of events.
I thought the order was the girl comes screaming out of a different classroom, unrelated.
Yeah, it is.
The cop comes in, asks some questions, because I thought it was trying to set up to artificially prop up more that something's wrong. But I could be wrong. I'm only 55% sure. This happened.
I don't know if I would deem it artificial in the way that you are, but it's creating this uncertainty and confusion and that sudden punctuation of, possibly, someone else has learned about this, because it's before the announcements are made. Because they reference, rumors are flying everywhere. People are starting to guess and and figure out something. And the thing is too, I'm wondering if maybe that comes back to mean something later. Like maybe we find out who that person is, because as we later find out, it's not just Laura who's missing. There's the other girl who gets found and is in a coma, and then the third girl who is just still missing at this point.
Yeah.
So
I didn't realize this until hindsight. Didn't connect the thing because I wrote up that complaint as it was happening, not reviewing it in the context of, well, what do I know now?
Right.
That it was foreshadowing the involvement of the of the
biker,
and of the best friend. I didn't connect those things, and that just dawned on me as I was talking.
I would say this. I was really confused about what that, like, because they were sort of looking sidelong at each other, and there was a moment before because we followed Donna into school. Donna being Laura's friend, I don't remember if I actually mentioned her name or not, into school, and she goes to her locker, and the biker comes by just before she leaves her locker, and they sort of exchange a brief word. Like he mentioned something about a picnic, like a fine day for a picnic or something, in reference we later learned to another interaction that they both shared with Laura, right?
Oh my god! I didn't even.
So yeah, and so that was just really weird to me. And then they're looking at each other in class as this whole thing is starting to be, the whole what happened to Laura is starting to become known. And so that was that was really confusing in that moment. But then in the full context of the episode, you see where all of that stuff starts to fit together.
Yeah. I didn't.
That's the trouble with foreshadowings that can be mistaken for random nonsense up until the point where you go back and see it all in.
Yeah, but it's not like the Hitchcockian. We see the gun under the couch sort of thing.
It's more abstract. It's less clear at first than it would be.
Which is dangerous because when that scene happened, when Donna and the biker are reacting like that, when nothing's happened, they just see a cop, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you acting this way? And it was just so that was my mistake. I was put off so much that it
just didn't come through to you. I mean, yeah, the thing that I found, I guess, confusing was more the I knew that there was some significance here, that they must have had something to do, or they must have had some connection to Laura that was going to become apparent, and I didn't know what it was, but I felt like I couldn't even guess. I was still trying to get a sense of who they were.
Yeah.
And so also throwing in the aspect of, okay, now they're connected to this other person who I don't really know, and it was all kind of, I think in some ways, a lot to process, but I don't know.
When you earlier when you were doing the synopsis, you referred to, we know at least one person who didn't do this.
Yeah.
My question is,
actually, I think we know two.
Person, I think we only know, I honestly don't think we know anything. We don't know that anyone didn't do it. I would be surprised if the FBI agent did it.
Well, there was,
but realistically, why do we know? I would be happy if it ended up being something like the FBI agent, where I'd be like, whoa, that was a real twist. But why do we know?
I guess I should say, maybe we don't know, but we are given strong reason to believe that two people are somehow involved, but may not have been, but were not the perpetrators. So Bobby is one of the main male characters. He was Laura's boyfriend, though we are given clear indications that he was not at all faithful to her.
Yeah.
And that was sort of wrapped up in his sense of masculinity and what it meant for him to be a male, I think. But so he's immediately under suspicion because he was not at football practice in the morning and was the last one known to be with Laura, and he very vehemently denies any involvement with killing her or even knowing that she was dead, which I think, given the interactions we see with him outside of any interrogation or questioning where he would be trying to potentially lie, I think it's clear enough that he had nothing to do with it. But there's also a moment where, like, when he actually sits down with the FBI agent, he's talking to him and going through evidence and doing his interrogation thing, which I thought was really awesome. And then and as he's going through this, he like punches something out on his calculator and gives it to the sheriff, and the message is he didn't do it, or something. Another way of saying that exact same thing.
What was that? A calculator?
Well, I guess I thought of it as a calculator, but maybe it was more of like a PDA type thing from the 90s.
Well, I didn't actually really note that.
I guess
as much. I kind of assumed, just kind of wrote it off. But I don't remember. It looked like it had buttons.
Yeah, it had like I guess it had calculator style keypad buttons, like arrayed in a way that an old calculator would be. But it probably wasn't a calculator. It was probably some kind of digital organizer, which I now, calculator was the wrong word to describe what it actually is, but my perception of it in the moment was that looks like a calculator, but it clearly couldn't have been just a calculator.
Yeah, I just recognize it as innocuous device.
But anyway, we're kind of getting off of what we're trying to talk about again.
I'm just kind of alarmed how much I've missed in this show.
So we have, I think, strong reason to believe that Bobby is not the killer. And
that's interesting.
Given his desire to get revenge on... So Bobby becomes aware through the interrogation that a biker was likely involved. So
which was very cleverly done on the case of writing, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So he finds out... So he gets that idea, and he talks to his friend... and they're like, we're going to go bust some heads and kick some biker ass because someone killed Laura, or one of them killed Laura. So I as much as I think Bobby's a scumbag and is the kind of, he lies all the goddamn time, I think in this case, I am fully on board with Agent Cooper in the fictional, within the realm of the fiction, and also as an audience member, I think it's very clear to me that Bobby did not do it. So we have.
I don't. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying. So we have him, and then I was going to move on to the other person.
Oh, I just to address Bobby, I don't. Maybe it's just my reaction to. I mean, it's clear that he's supposed to be this really hyper
douche.
There's a word here. Yeah, but there's a type of behavior, and I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to offend people by miscommunicating, by being too soft or too informal with my language. But he's supposed to be this overly. He's a thug. He's a thug, like he's a thug essentially. Yeah. He's just this idiot,
that's fair.
bully kind of misogynistic douchebag.
Yep.
And he was he's written as this character who is that for that time period. So my reacting to that, because we've come a long way since the 90s as far as social justice stuff,
mm-hmm.
is that the gulf between that kind of character written for now is greater, and so I don't know if my reaction to him is colored by the gulf, of a douchebag now.
Okay, but
and a douchebag then.
But are you saying that because he is a massive douchebag, made even more massive by the standards of today, you think he killed her?
No, I'm saying I'm wondering if that colored my vision enough for me not to come to the same conclusion
that he's exonerated. I would say it did. That would be my assessment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking, and I think it's an important thing to think about how our perceptions of characters color our thing. So I just found it interesting about myself. It's not.
No, yeah, sure. That's.
But yeah, go ahead with your second person.
That's a good point. So yeah, so I think Bobby, I think, is clearly innocent of Laura's murder, and then there's the biker, James. Yeah, James.
Yeah.
Or Jay, cleverly disguised in Laura's
Real
tower.
hidden there.
So James, he says at the very end of the episode, he says to when he's telling Donna about what happened or what he knows about that night, he says, he was with Laura, he was riding around with her, and she was quote unquote not herself, and he was very clearly falling for her, and very much in love with her. And I think he said that he pulled up to a stoplight. She got off the bike and like took off, like, which I interpreted her being in some sort of maybe drugged state where she was just kind of not really paying attention to her surroundings, and so just kind of was like, oh, I'm gonna go over here now, and just went away. Not like she was running in fear, but that she was just sort of doing whatever.
I think it stands. I think we need to add here that the FBI agent suggested, or the FBI agent found a key. In a plastic container in a diary of the murder victim, of the first murder victim,
Laura. Yeah.
Or the only. Yeah. What's her name again?
Laura Palmer.
Laura Palmer, and it had a white indistinguishable powder that he theorized was cocaine and was sending it off to be tested.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to mention here for why your theory makes sense.
Well, yeah. So it was. I kind of forgot to mention this in the synopsis. That falls into the category of things that most people didn't know about Laura Palmer, that she may well have been into hard drugs like cocaine.
Exactly. I would want to add here, though. I want to say, though, I remember her grabbing onto his neck, hands around his throat, specifically, quote unquote, and was yelling about how she loved him. And
I think I interpreted that. I think I understood that what he was describing differently, as not because she was riding on his bike, so she would have been behind him. And I thought that meant she put her arms around his neck, as in like over the shoulders, like holding on to him for the sake of being on a motorcycle. I didn't take it to mean that she was like choking him, saying "I love you," and then ran away.
It alarmed me because the wording, it was quote unquote hit her hands around my neck.
I thought it was arms
screaming.
So I don't know.
It was. I was alarmed by that. It brought my specific attention. I could pick that out. I'm very, very sure about this. And that was.
Well, you're also very, very sure about that other thing where you owe me $1, but.
I was only $1 sure. I was $10 sure about this.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
So I was. Yeah, that so that also adds to the fact that she was also a user.
Yeah.
And plus she was just really scared of something.
So that better explains, I think, why she ran off and that whole moment. So that scene is relayed by James to Donna. I almost said Debbie. That would have been wrong. To Donna towards the end of the episode when they're out in the woods trying to, because he sets up a meeting with her to try and explain what happened, and then he goes and turns himself in because he's saying.
No, he didn't turn himself in. They were caught.
Oh, that's right.
They were riding down the road.
He said he was going to turn himself in, and then they actually ended up being found again by Agent Cooper and the sheriff. But so he was like, well, I mean, I'm probably going to get done for this because I have no alibi, but I didn't do it. And his all we have to go on is his word. So he is the one who is less. So I'm less certain about being innocent, but at the same time, I mean, I can't help but look at this as a consumer of fiction and say, look, there's no way that this is the guy in the very first episode of the show who is going to end up being the actual murderer. So I think we have enough reason in that regard to believe that he is also innocent. Though,
well, aside from the consumer skepticism, I think that they are portraying him very specifically not to be the guy.
Yeah.
Via the way he just surrendered. He was very calm. He didn't do any actions whatsoever, other than putting his hands up and getting off the bike. So he seems to be of the quote-unquote ruffians kind of people.
Yeah.
He was the only one to act, civilly and reasonably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The one interesting twist here that I'm in. This is where I'm, enjoying the show. By the way, I've really enjoyed the interrogation. I really enjoyed the little cleverness that they did. That the FBI agent had the cleverness, but it wasn't the house or what's that guy Cumberbatch's character? Who was he playing? Sherlock Holmes, sort of, monumental genius. I thought this was very clever because not only was him, but also was the douchebag figured it out. And I thought that was really, really interesting. But the kiss that the biker plus Donna,
James and Donna shared at the end.
I think it's very interesting to show that they were they have feelings for each other too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't solely a matter of Laura and the biker being caring about each other.
And you mentioned that too because there was a bit of an interesting moment there in that kiss between Donna and James where he says he walks a statement back there because he says after he tells his story he says I'm sorry because he explains how what happened with Laura and how he loved her and then says I'm sorry and then she kisses him and then she pulls away, and then he says, "I'm not sorry."
He kissed her,
and then they,
And then I'm not sorry later on. Yep.
And so I'm wondering,
I think that's interesting.
I'm wondering what exactly he means because I kind of took that to mean, or at least suggesting that the three of them were together, and he clearly had strong feelings for Laura. And then I think it's clear that Donna has strong feelings for James, which he may or may not reciprocate, or is still trying to figure out if he reciprocates. And then maybe that's the love triangle amongst those three.
I think that he was solely apologizing for kissing and then saying, I'm not sorry for the...
Okay.
He basically just recanted his earlier apology. I think that Laura and the biker were into each other.
Yeah.
And... the girl that we keep
Donna.
forgetting her name, Donna, and the biker into each other, and I think that the Donna and the biker just didn't acknowledge it until then, or if they did acknowledge it, it was like saying, "Oh no, we can't." It was this kind of
that could be
it was a put off thing.
Maybe maybe James knew Laura first, and then Donna was Laura's best friend, so they went together and hung out, and so maybe Donna and James consider themselves friends, connected by James's interest in Laura, and then in that moment in the woods, James realizes he actually has very strong feelings for Donna. I think I misread the initial kiss as being James leaning in to kiss Donna. I thought that was Donna's initiation
Donna. Nope,
in both cases. Okay,
Donna.
so that makes more sense then.
Yeah. And my prediction, if I was forced to give a prediction, is that triangle I described. That's my future if I was forced to. Normally I wouldn't make a prediction, but that's if I was forced to.
And sorry, your triangle again being...
biker plus blonde and biker plus brunette.
So James is initially in love with Laura, and Donna.
He's in love with both.
So he ends up in love with both. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I shouldn't have described them by their hair color. I just couldn't think of.
So you're saying that in the throughout the entire term of the three of their connection, those three. James was always loving both of them? Was always in love with both of them? Okay.
Yep.
I believe it to be because he talks about how when Laura dies and James goes to meet Ed at the gas station, he drives by the gas station to see Ed, and they have a brief moment, and James said if it wasn't in that exact scene, somewhere around there, he says, she was the one, in reference to Laura. So I think it's.
He did say that to the gas station.
Yeah, he started with he was in love with Laura. Donna was also involved because she was Laura's best friend. So they spent time together. They had that picnic, and then Laura dies, and somewhere in there, somewhere in that relationship, Donna starts to have feelings for James, I think. Or even if it's just like the strong bond of friendship surrounding something traumatic like, the death of your best friend. And then that, in that moment in the woods, turns into a spark of love between James and Donna.
Okay.
But so yeah, my triangle is James to Laura, and then Donna to James, that maybe becomes reciprocated in that last moment in the woods.
I want to say this to go on
Sure.
to about. I want to say some of the acting is great. At least some of the way they set up some of the characters is really great. The incredibly rapey doctor of
psychiatrist
Laura,
apparently.
No, he was a psychiatrist. I thought he was like a medical doctor.
I thought he was actually. I thought they specified he was a psychiatrist, but I might have misread that.
I could have totally missed it. I just assumed he was a doctor, medical doctor. But in any case, the incredibly, ridiculously rapey. Like he's the archetype of rape.
Yeah, and such a weird ass guy.
Did you see his tie?
Yeah, and how he was like fingering the hula girl on the tie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that clearly.
Why is this so rapey?
Set up. Oh man.
If you were going to arrest somebody based on things,
or appearance alone, yeah.
Yeah, then he should be arrested for any kind of sexual violence. Like, awful.
Oh yeah, I wonder where that character goes. Also, speaking of weird characters, and then I think we should probably wrap this part up, is the log lady who makes a brief appearance.
Yeah, what was that? That was awesome.
Knowing what I know about what we'll get into here in our supplemental
don't
episode.
Say anything about the future. Don't say anything at all about the future.
I believe I know roughly what that character is.
Are you there? Ben.
Because of a separate character in and again something we're going to get into here in a little bit. But
Ben.
And I guess I lost Devin. What the heck?
Totally lost the call.
Hello? Hey.
Hey, your volume is way different now too.
Okay, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I thought you got angry because I cut you off.
No, trust me.
I was like, holy shit, did he just hang up?
No, I would never do that. I would just say that up front right now. No matter what, I would never ever do that. I guess unless you were just cussing at me constantly and being an actual dick. I
give you permission to, if I'm drunk and out of my mind, you can totally hang up on me.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. At what point did you stop hearing me?
You said just to get us just to talk about what we're going to see in the future or something. And I cut you off there. I was trying to cut you off. But before we go on to that, since this is probably going to be edited out,
yeah.
I don't want to. Well, whatever. If I'm going to talk about this, we might as well edit that entire shit out. But I have not been downloading anything in the course of our talking. I don't know how long we were talking before this. I've gotten 6 tracking cookies, 2 in one case and 4 in the other.
What?
Why am I getting tracking cookies?
I don't even know what What are you looking at that's showing you that?
Oh, my AVG internal security thing. It's a...
Well, but you've been on websites.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
Oh, that's not from downloading things?
No. Tracking cookies are what websites use to like even simple thing like it can be totally innocuous stuff like, hey, here's a cookie so that we know you've logged in to our website, or something say like, hey, this person came here, so for the purposes of advertising, this is someone who came to our website, and that's
so it's something. So it's completely innocuous.
No, it's web browser stuff. I mean, it can be completely innocuous. If you go to really bad websites, it could be less innocuous, but yeah,
that's scary.
Totally normal thing for web browsers.
Okay. Well, then never mind.
So anyway, all right. So kind of lost the call there for a second, but I think I was talking about how we were talking about the log lady, and I think I kind of know who that character is roughly, just because of.
Oh, I'm going to have to cut you off. Don't say anything if it's a kind of spoiler for the future.
No.
Okay. Good.
I mean, I think that character is just a weird eccentric who maybe has some other significance I'm not aware of, but it just reminded me because there was in something we're going to be talking about here in a minute once we wrap up. There's an analog character that is just it's just weird and crazy, and I don't know if she holds any other significance to the story. But so I think the psychiatrist might end up with more screen time than the log lady, but I hope we get to see more about the log lady.
I do too.
All right.
My actual final comment is on the very last 3 seconds of the show.
Oh yeah.
It was unbelievable. That was such a great cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't something where it wasn't depriving me of anything, because it wasn't an ongoing story talking about. It was just this weird event that happened that was really well done, and now I really, really, really want to know what's happening.
Wait, are we talking about the same thing? Describe what
the dream the mother is having, and then the mother waking up screaming, and then the actual event happening. Okay, wait, that's too much. The woman.
No, we're spoiler free, so say exactly what you mean.
No, I know,
okay.
but no, I'm drawing conclusions, which I don't mean, which isn't what I mean to do. Factually, what happened simultaneously, or at least was going back and forth, was the rock. The mother wakes up screaming first. As she's waking up screaming, some gloved figure, can't even see the skin color, picks up the rock that was at the feet of Jay.
James and Donna. They buried the other half of Laura's locket, which
we don't know if they buried anything.
No,
we know somebody went back and picked it up.
We know that the two of them buried that locket half.
How do we know that?
Because we saw them do it.
What?
Okay, so
no, we didn't.
No, we 100%. Okay, hold on. Let me take the time to fully explicate this. So when Donna and James meet in the woods, and they have their whole moment and conversation, Donna knows that half of Laura's heart locket was found at the scene of her the presumed scene of her murder.
Yeah, because the mother and the wheelchair mother. And
they're.
God damn it! I'm such an asshole. Sorry, I didn't mean to describe it that way.
The doctor and his wife, Donna's parents. Because I think he's a doctor. I don't know. I thought
he's the coroner.
Yeah. Okay.
So he has.
So Donna and James are in the woods. Donna tells James that you have to get rid of this half of the locket and say, look, we'll bury it. So they dig up a bit of dirt, put a rock over it. So in the final scene of the show, a gloved hand comes down and picks up the rock, and presumably at this point we'll find that half of the locket, and then who knows what happens.
Question: did we actually physically see them, or was it? Because I remember that
it's a close-up of the rock and the dirt, and a gloved hand comes down.
No, Ben.
Yes, we physically see them crouch down, dig a dirt, put the locket in the dirt, covered over, and put a rock on it.
In full disclosure, I went to Tumblr for a second during that.
Yes, and actually, so in that case, full disclosure, I paid attention to the entire show except for that last minute and a half, 2 minutes, because I was moving some stuff around in my living room as that was happening. So I forgot that the mother was dreaming. I remember her screaming and seeing the hand.
No.
But
we don't know that she was dreaming. That was the conclusion I was drawing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But so just to make sure we communicate this properly. The mother wakes up. We see a gloved hand going down to the rock and screams. Yeah. But as the screaming is happening, it's going back and forth between that and the gloved hand picking up the rock and getting the locket. What I conclude, but I have no reason to believe this, is that she was dreaming about like it was suggested that it was a matter of dreaming.
I took it to mean that she was. I don't remember her dreaming at all. I thought she was just sitting and, being like feeling terrible about the death of her daughter and crying about it. So, but I'm explaining what I saw of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I was about to apologize.
Okay. So she's grieving. She lets out a scream of recognition. And I think, I guess it did seem to be implied that maybe those events were coinciding, but I took it to mean that the mother was having her, terrible grief, and then it actually happened that someone found the locket. A gloved hand was uncovering the locket in real life, so to speak.
I think minimalistically it's suggesting that they're happening simultaneously.
Ooh.
But it's one of those things in movies that kind of feels like they're not saying it, they're not meaning to suggest it, or maybe they are meaning to suggest it, but it kind of feels like she's dreaming about it. But there's no reason to draw the conclusion beyond how it just kind of feels.
I'm wondering if maybe there's going to be an element of like that's the person finding the locket is not actually happening at that time, and that she is that maybe is leading to, like, in the next episode, like she maybe has some premonition or sense of like, my daughter's locket is somewhere, and then they find it and we see that shot again of the hand picking up the rock. That's not, but I don't know. But at a certain point it's kind of it ends up amounting to the same difference, so it doesn't really.
If nothing else, it adds. Even if nothing else, it adds to the dreamy feeling of the show, which makes it feel more creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and that's all I got to say about the show.
I think that pretty much covers everything. I mean, that is the pilot episode of Twin Peaks. I don't think we're necessarily going to make it a big topic of conversation every week from here on out, but I'm totally cool with.
No.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we. Well, okay. Let me say this. I don't know. Maybe it becomes the big topic of conversation for the next, however many weeks that we go, or maybe it's not. I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe we shouldn't set up the expectation that this is now the Twin Peaks podcast.
Oh yeah, this is definitely not the Twin Peaks podcast. My only question:
the world's worst Twin Peaks podcast.
My only question is: are we going to watch another episode and talk about it and see what happens?
Yeah, I think I think we could just we'll just say that we will continue to watch the show over the coming weeks, and it will probably be something we talk about one way or the other on some level. So.
Because my intention actually was I was going to watch one more episode if you were up for it, talk on the show, and then if we, and then just keep it like, if we don't want to talk about it anymore, then we don't talk about it or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
That totally fits my expectation. So anyway,
so we have the same. Okay.
So behind the scenes talk aside, that's pretty much this week's episode. Though before we actually do a proper outro, I want to say there's a link to this in the description for this show. We are going to record a supplemental video of actual video game play, because there's this game called Deadly Premonition, which came out a couple years ago for Xbox 360 and was more recently re-released and updated on PC and also on PS3, and I think also re-released on 360, but maybe it was just PS3 and PC. So we're going to play a bit of that because it takes significant story cues from Twin Peaks, if not directly ripping off Twin Peaks, at least in some instances.
And you can find that on our YouTube channel.
Yes, there will be a link to that in the description. It'll be on our YouTube channel because there's like proper video and stuff. So yeah.
And so, are we setting up homework for next week by watching the second episode?
I would say that if people want to, they can, but I wouldn't call it homework.
Okay, so basically just the same expectation as this week.
Well, I think there was more expectation coming into this week, but I don't know.
All right. Well, if you want to know what we're talking about, the show we're going to watch the next episode, talk about next week.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. I found it personally on Netflix, so it's available, readily available.
It's on Netflix too? I didn't know that. Or maybe I did.
Well, it's not free on Netflix. I mean, you have to have a subscription, but
right. Fair enough.
So you're gonna do the outro now?
Oh, yes. All right, guys. No, I'm not going to do the outro. I'm good.
All right, that's it. But you want to tell people what they're listening to here as we head out?
Oh my God! I sent it to you, and then I was just like, "Yep, that's the ending of what I need to be doing for the rest." 1 second, I'll get it here.
I have it here.
Oh my God! Okay, you tell them what it is, but I should say you should also go check out this artist's YouTube channel. He has a non-music YouTube channel. It's ELLIO period, and it'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, you can check it out. The link will be there. But this is by Electric, which is just spelled ELKTRK. It's from his album Winter, and so we're gonna listen to the song. This is currently Warrior from that little LP.
We love you more than your mothers.
And we'll see you maybe in a few moments if you choose to watch the YouTube video.
Bye.